I feel like there have been so many moments where travel has really just shown us how beautiful the diversity in the world is and how beautiful humans really are to one another.
Content warnings for this episode include dysphoria, anti-trans bigotry, mental health, ableism, religion, bullying, being misgendered, racism, and antifatness. Genderful would like to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples and unceded lands that the producers, hosts, and guests live and have dwelt upon. Today, we honor the Coast Salish.
We honor the Jumanos, Coahuiltecan, Comanche, Lipan Apache, and Tonkawa. Thank you.
We honor the elders, the human, plant, and animal ancestors of these lands and celebrate the living descendants of these peoples. May all beings tend these lands for the goodness of the next 7 generations and beyond. Howdy, folks. Welcome to Genderful, a talk show interviewing gender diverse people about their special interests. Hi, I'm GenderMeowster, and my pronouns are they, them.
Hi, I'm Miranda Katita, and my pronouns are she, her.
The focus of our show is to interview trans, non-binary, agender, two-spirit, and gender-diverse people regarding their special interests, passion projects, and resources for the gender-diverse community.
We want our audience to know that we hold multiple diverse identities and bring these lenses to the show with our passion for telling our stories.
I identify as non-binary, trans-masculine, polyamorous, ADHD, autistic, and disabled with chronic pain and mobility issues. I also am white and reside in the United States.
I identify as trans-feminine, neurodivergent, queer, and a person of color residing in Canada. We invite you to remember that we are whole people with robust lives, friendships, challenges, and successes. We love and are loved, and we are delighted to share these stories with you.
As always, we kindly remind our listeners that no person is a monolith of their identities. Your identities can change over time and are valid every step of the way. And if you think you're gender diverse, you are gender diverse. There's no social or medical prerequisite to be included in the community. Welcome to GenderfulPodcast, a show interviewing gender diverse people about their special interests. This week, we have 2 guests. Rocky Lane, he, him, and Sarah Swafford, they, them, are chatting with us today about T4T relationships. For those who don't know this term, T4T refers to trans folks that are either currently in or seeking a relationship with other trans folks. Welcome to Genderful, Rocky and Sarah. It's so glad to have you here.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here.
Yeah.
Yay.
Oh man, I feel like we've been trying to connect and be on a show for like over a year. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. It's been at least a year. Like, it's been wild.
Our friend,
I'm so excited.
and beautiful poet Jbaeproductions is who recommended us to come after you interviewed them in a beautiful interview.
so
I think about a year ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, KB Brookins is wonderful and gives great guest referrals. So I'm so glad that you all are here. This is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we're so glad to be here.
That's so great. So we have 2 sort of gender history questions that we like to ask because we have a lot of listeners who are maybe starting out on their gender journeys, or it's just affirming for them to hear all the different ways people began. So I'm wondering if each of you could consider and share about what might be the things you can trace back to your youth that indicated you might be gender diverse one day.
Oh gosh, this is such a fun question.
It really is.
Yeah. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I think you should go first.
Okay. I mean, I think a big one for me, in my gender journey, like one of my special interests is definitely like media, movies, TV shows, books, audiobooks, like things like that. So I think for me, something that I look back on now and I'm like, oh yeah, like major like signal that I would be the person that I am today. Like when I would watch, all of these like shows and movies, like I was somebody that I always had such varied interest in the types of media. Like I loved, the princess stories and like the magical like Disney, and like all of that kind of stuff, like the really, dress up over the top, like ball gowns, girliness, quote unquote, or whatever. I loved all that stuff. And then equally, I was also super into like Indiana Jones And Happy Days, I was obsessed with Happy Days as a child because of Fonzie. And I went through like these phases where I would like simultaneously want to wear like, a fluffy like Tinkerbell or like Beauty and the Beast ball gown, and then also like an Indiana Jones hat. And then, I went through a spell at school where like I wanted kids to call me the Fawns, like just all these things like that, where I was just,
Hey.
yeah, hey. Like I was just, there was just no real, it wasn't like, oh well, this child obviously like really likes this one thing and that, really explains XYZ. It was like always these like complete opposites, and like being simultaneously like infatuated with these characters and also infatuated with wanting to be these characters. So I don't know, that was a big thing for me. Like looking back, I'm just like, yeah, like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I wasn't as cool as being the Fonz, but I certainly hated wearing dresses. And I would say that like my affiliation with churches and things like that kind of encouraged people to kind of make me do dresses. And I think it was the fight against the dresses that let me know. And it was another combination of me being afraid of like my body growing the way that it was going to grow and wanting to like press down my chest. And I didn't know the names for those types of behaviors. And I kind of hid that kind of stuff. But when I started doing a little more research, met someone like Sarah who had a Tumblr account, things that are very useful to help somebody from the 80s maybe get their language updated and their options updated. I kind of went from being in what they call stud culture or like lesbian culture and kind of presenting mask to knowing my options for masculinizing. And it took me about 33 years or so to get to my first medical transition journey. So that's the long and short of it. And it's actually what started our couple journey on the internet and in general.
Yeah.
It's a big part of our story. So we love talking about it and welcome people to ask us questions all the time about it.
I love that. Do you still have tumblers that people can? I don't know how to tumble. Do you follow each other? Do you how do you tumble? I don't know.
No, so
Maybe they're
like
private tumblers.
I am so like Tumblr is completely different. It's a totally different world to me now. Like I
Yeah.
was of the like peak heyday Tumblr before like before a lot of like restrictions came down and they started like really clamping down on like what types of content were allowed. So like I was definitely really into like peak Tumblr heyday, but I was more of like a Tumblr lurker, like a Tumblr creep. Like I wasn't posting a lot of content. Like I would share content and stuff, and I don't know, sometimes I might have posted, but it was really for me, it was like an educational resource. And it really did, like, it helped me so much on like my coming out journeys, like, both in just like understanding my gender and also like my sexuality.
Yeah.
But I'm really like, I'm not on Tumblr anymore. It makes me so sad. I miss it. Like I miss the Tumblr heydays.
I'm certainly not on there either because I was the first millennial. I don't know if anybody knows that, but if you look, I'm the original millennial. And so I was still on the fence about Facebook at the time that Tumblr was popular. I think that Sarah like really should continue on Tumblr, but we don't know what happened to it. So I see the chat agrees that it's chaos. So if anyone would like to guide us, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
We need to get back in that Tumblr verse for sure.
We have some Tumblr lovers in the community for sure. They're saying, come back.
Okay, maybe we will just for y'all.
That's so funny. We love it. So how has y'all's relationship to gender evolved over time? Like, Rocky, you went from hating dresses to having a fabulous beard and mustache now. So something happened. How has that journey been for each of you?
Oh my. I'll go first this time.
Yeah.
Mine is probably simpler. I'm sorry. So
is it?
No, it isn't. I think how I didn't get here sooner is probably a little easier to answer, which is lack of information, lack of education, lack of access, and intentional, omission of information that showed up in every aspect of my life until I was old enough to go ask my own questions, right? So it was that initial barrier of thinking something was wrong with me, that I was the only one, things like that. And then there was additional barriers of having religious family members, having a conservative state that I lived in, having no clear navigation services or resources, no clear LGBT centering that kept me purposely separated from the larger community and kind of searching in this adult, kind of the adult years of my life. And I think there was another piece of it that had to do with my artistry, the fact that I was, when Sarah and I met, singing pretty much full time backup or regular vocals for different bands here where we live. And I was afraid of the changes that I would be committing to change my vocal cords, the things that happen potentially when you take testosterone or other things. And I was afraid to lose that momentum. And I think also I needed to spend a little more time not being scared with the information, but get good information, of which Sarah and I got several books that I think told a story that seemed familiar to me, showed me I wasn't alone. I was able to ask people in my own peer group, especially Black people that are members of the trans community and feel very strongly about our position in it. So there was pride that was instilled into me. And I think that's what ultimately got me to this place where even if I grow hair and get a deep voice and have to deal with some social issues, it's 100% what makes me feel comfortable. And like I advocated for myself to get to this point, and that happiness kind of followed, and that's what keeps me here. And I hope that answers it. I think it does.
Oh, and sorry, will you remind me of the question?
How has your
Yeah. How
relationship
has
to
your
gender
relationship
evolved
to
over time?
gender evolved over time?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, golly. So for me, I think, the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic really uh changed so much for everybody, right? And I think myself, along with a lot of people during that first year or two, like I am a disabled person. And so, that was a really scary time. I mean, it still is, but especially like that first year or so where we were like all just finding out everything real time and trying to figure out how to deal and how to survive and how to live, and so spending a lot of time at home, and we were just like pretty much completely isolated for that first year and a half or so, definitely. And during that time, I, again, like I said, like with a lot of people, spent a lot of time on TikTok and Instagram, and just like connecting more with like my queer and trans community. And through a lot of that, I kind of started to examine my own gender and my own interpretation and my own feelings about my own gender identity. And I just kind of came to the realization that there was a lot of parts of myself that I had been kind of just you know pushing down or not really allowing myself to be one with, for lots of, ultimately kind of trivial reasons. And then, plenty of reasons that are not trivial, right? Like worrying about, being ostracized from family or community or things like that. But a big part of it for me, I think, as somebody that kind of had this realization and this sort of coming, another form of coming out in my mid 30s, as opposed to like my queer sexuality, queer coming out journey, which was more in my early 20s. This was really different because I think I just sort of felt like, well, there's already people in my life that have a problem with me just being a queer person. So there's no reason to continue to like hide aspects of myself because I'm worried about what they're going to think, because like there's already been a rejection, or there's already been, a wall put up. So I think, that was a part of it for me, of definitely like, becoming more of myself, and feeling more okay with the fact that like I deserve to live the life that I know that I should live, and I deserve to be the person that I know I am, and I deserve to like stand in the light as that person, despite what anybody else might think. But also, to be totally frank too, it was an interesting thing. Like I was somebody that, like when Rocky and I first got together, I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely just like a cis woman, or whatever. And like that was just, and it was easier, I think, for me to focus on his journey, because there were certain milestones that we were looking for, and there were certain goals that we were, trying to meet together, or the goals that I was trying to support him in. And I think it was easier for a while to just be like, great, like that's here. I don't really have to think about myself. I don't really have to examine it. And then when I was suddenly tasked with like having all this time to really like examine things, it was a little bit like nerve-wracking at first. And even in regard to our relationship, when I finally was like, okay, I need to talk to Rocky about this, like I kind of started, it's like so silly to look back on, because Rocky's like the most supportive person that I've ever had in my life in numerous ways. But, I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling of, just any little change, anything that you start to realize about yourself, you're like, oh wow, I don't know how the people closest to me are going to take this, because I'm still processing it. So there was definitely this like period of time where I was trying to like soft launch Rocky, or soft launch myself, and I was like, I've been having all these dreams where, people say like, where in dreams I'm like genderqueer, or non-binary. What's that about? Oh, isn't that weird? And like, and I don't think I knew at the time. I was trying to kind of like suss him out and suss myself out, but I think that's definitely like a little bit of what was happening. And then, finally getting to a point where I was like, okay, yeah, like I really do, I feel like, yeah, I am non-binary. Like this is my identity. This is a huge part of who I am. And I finally ended up telling him, and I like tell him, and then I ran and I hid in the bathroom for like 40 minutes. Just because I think saying it out loud too was like also a part of, that journey that I like hadn't experienced. And of course, like I said, like ultimately I was very lucky and privileged that my partner was just like 100% like, first of all, like, yeah, clearly, I'm glad, like I know, but I'm glad, and, just very supportive and very loving about it. But yeah, I mean, it was, it was definitely something that evolved. It's still something, for me that like, I'm out publicly, and like I'm out publicly, socially, on social media, all of those things. But it's also this kind of weird thing that like doesn't get talked about with a very small group of people in a certain aspect of my life, in my family of origin in particular. And that's just where it lives now. It's kind of, it's a weird thing, but like I said, it's like, I know who I am. I'm not afraid of who I am anymore. So, whether or not certain people want to acknowledge that or not is really like neither here nor there in my journey. I'm just
I find that it's pretty consistent with what we've found as a feedback in general about non-binary identity, and whether people are respecting checking in, or checking themselves around you versus me. I think that we found a lot of interesting dynamics between binary trans people and non-binary trans people, and how much space is taken up in the conversation. I think we've learned a lot about when we try to show up in spaces, whose content is gonna get the so whats and you're trying to be specials, and whose content is gonna get the you're so braves, or
Yeah.
or if we're both just going to be disliked. So I think we've learned a lot seeing it from these two different ways that we made our way here.
Yeah.
And I think it's important also that, like, you highlighted the part that you were kind of scared to talk to me about it, because I think that's pretty common sentiment that we
Yeah.
get a lot from folks in our community anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is kind of maybe a little bit of a misconception too about like T4T relationships, is that like a lot of T4T relationships do start as like both individuals knowing that and being out, and and then there's people like us that like our journey didn't start that way. Our journey started like also we've been together over 10 years, and so a lot of things have transpired in that time too. So yeah, I think that is a really important thing to mention though, is that yeah, I mean, a lot of times you just really don't know until you get to that level of comfort and security, either in yourself, in your relationship, both, whatever. And then it's like, oh wow, there's a whole new thing that's opened up.
Wow, was that just question two?
Yeah.
I think it's going well. I think it's going well.
It's good. It's beautiful. Well, it's laying the groundwork for so much of the rest of our conversation today. I just wanted to take an aside to say that I really relate to your mutual story of your relationship and the trajectories you've been on. A little bit about me. I'm married to a trans woman, she, her, and I'm a non-binary trans masculine person who uses they, them pronouns, but I was out as non-binary for 4 years before I even started to think about HRT. And now I get a lot of he, hims, and I'm like, that's not correct. The way that she, her is also not correct. Like neither of those is correct. Anyways, so I can relate to the like fear to tell your partner about the stuff. And she still identifies as a lesbian, a transbian. And I'm a they, them, but there's a lot of beard going on here. So
yeah.
lesbian whose partner happens to have a beard. I don't know.
Yeah.
Identity and actual what you do in your life cannot match sometimes, and that's okay too.
So true.
But I can tell you, it wasn't until after we were married that I had the dream. I also had a dream about it. And then had the courage to bring it up with my wife. Is like, I don't know, but maybe I want to start tea. I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really did take a certain level of our relationship feeling solid for my brain to even be able to consider it.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it was not mentally possible to contemplate that reality until a certain level of stability in our relationship and our household was established.
Yeah.
So then part of me felt guilty, and it was like, did I trick my wife? I don't know. Like,
yes,
exactly. Not on purpose.
Yes.
I did, it wasn't
not on purpose.
Oh my God. But that feeling, that is a huge part of it too. Cause then you're like, well, I don't want to I'm not trying to take the wind out of your sails either. Like I am still like team you and whatever is going on here. Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. I think it was seeing on the other side the next morning, the relationship feels the same. It's not strong.
Right.
We keep making it through these little checks, and I think it's been working.
Yeah.
Well, and I can say a beautiful thing that happened for us is she looked at me and said, look, Meowster, like, I am trans. I know how incredibly deeply important it is to have access to HRT if that's part of your journey. And I'm not going to stop you. I'm only going to support you. Like, of course I'm going to support you. I love you. Like, I want you to be like self-actualized and fulfilled. And at this point, we've just taken turns taking care of each other after surgeries. It's like, she'll have a surgery, I'll have a surgery. She'll have a surgery, I'll have a surgery. So,
I love that. Yes, that is, I think we relate to that a lot. And the point you made too about just like there was so much that you had to even get through for your brain to just like relax enough, and I think a lot of that, like, I'm definitely not trying to put anything on you, but I know like with my story, like that definitely resonates because yeah, there's been a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma, a lot of, like we were saying, like just fear and rejection and pain and things like that. And it's like, yeah, you have to get to those points where you're like, wow, we've really been through some stuff. And I feel like if we've gone through all of that, we can definitely have this combo.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what I also love about it is that we're this is what I love about talking about T4T relationships, because I think talking about and framing for people what it looks like to truly be in a relationship where somebody's got you, like they've really
Yeah.
got you, is kind of a path to liberation, a tool for liberation that we can multiply outside of romantic love and T4T relationships. And I think if we learn how to truly like show up how T4T people might show up, because there's this this humanity behind it that
Yeah.
has very little to do with my social status or any other reasons I
Yeah.
might choose a partner, and very much to do with this is the last stop. Look, we are each other's last stop in some cases for acceptance, love, protection. And so showing how it works in romantic love, I think, will spread out over time to the other types of love, community care. And it's something we've always held true, that we like take care of each other first and foremost, in ourselves first and foremost. And I think that's what people like about us, when they connect with us. And I think that's what they like about being in our community. And so
Yeah.
I love that we get to talk about it so openly with someone else who understands it honestly. And it's very nice.
And
Yes.
like you were saying, it's like it doesn't have to necessarily be like a romantic or intimate or sexual relationship that you're having with somebody and getting that level of support. You can be a really good friend to someone. You can be a chosen family member. You can be a family of origin. You can be a sibling. You can be, a mother. Like you can be all of these things to people. That still is giving that solid foundation, like Rocky was saying, like that a lot of T4T relationships I think do give each other. But yeah, we can spread that around and be that for lots of people.
I can say for me, it feels like our connection has transcended above like gender and sexuality. Like, yeah, there's like identities that maybe outward facing people are interested in hearing about, but like we just love each other,
Yeah.
whatever form each other's bodies take. Like, we've been with each other through many configurations. Because we were both like, she was trans and I was non-binary before we got together. So we knew there was some gender spicy happening there. That part wasn't a surprise. The particular manifestation of how is that going to unfold sometimes was a surprise. But the when I told her about wanting to start testosterone, she was like, yeah, I mean, that's of course. Like I knew that was a possibility, like when we got together, and I was like, "Are you sure it's okay?" I had to ask her for like every day for like 3 months, like, "Are you sure it's okay?" I was so scared. I was so
Yeah.
scared. And, thank goodness I had such an understanding and loving person who totally understands that fear, who has been through it not going well with a partner and like totally knew how to handle it the right way because she had it the wrong way when she came out. So anyway, not with me, with someone else. But so there's just, yeah, there's something really really beautiful about I don't know, like once you find your person, you're like, well, I found my person. Like
Mhm.
we did
Yeah,
it.
I think there's some overlap there too with like, kind of the things that you were saying about like a T4T relationship or, your marriage or relationship. And we really feel that too. And I think another thing is like also because, it's not just like our gender presentation or identity or, aspects of our sexuality or things like that's just a really small facet of all the things that have changed about us as individuals since the moment that we met. Like we've said, it's like there's a disability piece. Rocky's got some chronic pain issues. I've got like disability and chronic illness. We both kind of had times of caring for each other with that. I'm ADHD. Rocky is got a beautiful, special, amazing, incredible mind.
I don't know what it is.
We don't know. We just know that it's wonderful. But it's like those ways of kind of relating interpersonally with each other and like growing and supporting each other. It's like we're already changing so much. Like, what is a pronoun change at this point?
Talking more directly and deeply about T4T relationships, what is the biggest challenge of navigating the world as a T4T couple? Would the two of you say?
The healthcare costs probably.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh yeah, like as a household, yeah,
just
outrageous.
keeping with doctors that can keep our family healthy and seen. Navigating where to live in a way that feels like we can take root and thrive and grow. The incredible strain that is created on this feeling we have in our household. I think that we need to protect every precious member of this community with every fiber of our being in any way that we possibly can, and what that looks like every day when we're talking in bed or when we're waking up. Or, if we get an email or a request. And then I'd say just the general danger of making sure that we remain married, remain kind of safely with each other.
Our rights are legally protected.
We don't allow ourselves to be separated a lot and things like that. But I would say when we are separated for any reason, like at the Mexico border or things like that, it is a point of stress for us. And I would say that we have to rely on each other quite a bit. And that's a little different, I think, than the people that are maybe not T4T couples in our life.
Yeah, I mean, and like as far as like the border, mentioning that, it's like that's been a lot of international travel places, because also, a lot of international travel, or a lot of travel in general, when you're going through security things or borders or whatever, they want to separate you by gender. So like there's certain ways that we navigate that to like make it easier on ourselves as much as we can, but that's still, it's like we're going to be usually separated. And then I think Rocky kind of touched on this earlier, but yeah, another real challenge I think is it can definitely be it can definitely be a blessing and a curse at times, but I think more often than not for us it feels like a negative thing. But either kind of the invisibility that we have as a T4T couple, of like people not visually like identifying that, like they see other things and so they think, oh, we're like a cis straight couple or whatever, maybe. Or like Rocky kind of touched on earlier too, it's like there's a lot of times where it's been like of course there's all kinds of transphobia in general, as we know, but it's a weird thing that it seems like more often than not, if there are positive comments, they're going to come more towards Rocky's way of like, oh, you're so courageous, or like keep going, or like you look great, you're really passing, like weird kind of stuff like that. And then to me it's a lot more of this energy of like, who cares? You think you're special. Nobody cares. Nobody would know anyway, which is like, you're making my point for me. Like, right. But I would say that's definitely kind of a challenge, just as like moving and operating day to day, the things that aren't politics, the things that aren't us fearing for our safety and life overall, but just like the day to day kind of a, it's just kind of a weird, like, people basically always assume something about us and it's almost never correct.
But we are definitely always eating a big old oppression sandwich, just like
absolutely
whatever they think they see, they want to oppress it. So it's our operations remain the same.
It's like we often wonder, it's like, are people reading us as like queer and that's why they're treating us weird, or are they just treating us weird from like general racism or general ableism or the other isms?
We thought about starting a survey when people are rude to us, but we thought that might be counterproductive. So we just kept that in our back pocket.
It's fun to joke about the survey.
It is.
Just total side tangent. Sarah, do you have non-binary on your passport? Because I know that's an option. I think that's an option in the whole United States, but maybe it's only certain states to have
Yeah, so
X or non-binary as your gender marker.
I don't have that on my passport currently. Now partially that's because I came out as non-binary in I guess 2020. And I think my passport predates that. Uh but I don't believe that it would be the easiest thing for us to obtain in the state that we're in right now, Texas. Like
I,
we're
I
yeah,
think that
where
it is a thing, but it's a weird situation because
yeah.
it is Texas.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's
Mhm.
Texas, I think it's kind of hard. I think we're still in a situation where people can like just choose to deny that if they want to, or whatever. But I am very curious about that. I also found out in the last few years that I'm intersex. So it's like all the more reason that I would love to have, an alternative on my gender markers, but also it's like I'm also very aware of like how people perceive me in the world. And like I said, sometimes I will choose to just be like, use different pronouns or let people perceive me a certain way because of my own safety. I feel like, well, this will be a safer way to like kind of fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
So my driver's license says non-binary on it, but my passport
Nice.
still says female, which is like, this does not look
Right.
female at all. Like,
That's not what we're going for. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It was, I
so
think
it's
it
on
was,
my to-do list. I was
we
just
did a
wondering if you had any
video.
experience with that, with traveling and how it went.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the reasons that why I changed my gender marker had to do with a
Yeah.
kind of an unfortunate pat down. And so I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But yeah, we've talked a little bit about these documents,
Yeah.
like we're having to solve weird problems as a T4T couple. Like, how do we move both our marriage license, which has some different stuff, or how do we move our passports and our IDs and everything to a safer state or a safer place to live, and get all that stuff redone in a way that like establishes that we've been a couple for a while. We don't erase anything unnecessarily. We're afraid of these kind of little clerical errors that could make it really difficult for us to get a home or get apartments or things like that. And sometimes in this area, having a thing like an X or having those kind of paperworks that you have to present can potentially out you and cause problems. And so I think we tend to, just try to not have to show anybody this stuff in general. And I think it makes us travel less and things like that from how it makes it difficult navigating.
Yeah. I will say one thing I have done that has been more affirming is there have been sometimes a few options, like if we're staying at certain certain hotels or doing certain events, those will give options to like list a different, like list your gender identity and your pronouns and things like that. And so sometimes even though you have to go into a space and maybe you have to show like a legal ID or government ID, they will still revert back to their original form. And then they will use the correct pronouns and they will do things to be more inclusive and accommodating. And that has been nice. I mean, I wouldn't say it's been like overwhelming. It's still a lot of things are needlessly gendered, but there have been a few times where like at vacation type events or resort or not resorts but hotels or whatever, where we've been able to do that and people have been really cool.
My joke is if they're dividing people by gender, gosh, that non-binary line must be so short.
Yeah.
It's a hack.
I want to know where the short non-binary line is, please.
Exactly. Yeah, just throw me over there because that'll be
I'll
easy.
go in the non-binary security check line, please.
Thank you.
On the flip side, what is the biggest joy of being T4T?
I really think, like we've kind of touched on it, but just that like really solid support that, I think just the excitement and joy that we both get, for each other when, there is some like goal or milestone, that is reached, or just like planning different things with each other. yeah, I just, I think having somebody that just really, gets you like is on your team, really understands, from a few different points, like kind of what's going on, what you're going through, I think is really special.
Yeah. And I think the community that forms around couples like us is a really cute, beautiful, lovely thing.
Yeah.
It tends to include a lot of nibblings, a lot of baby trans, and I think that being able to kind of hold that space for them of hope to go, maybe I have some alternatives to. I think we tell this a
Yeah.
lot when we talk about our relationship, but for me, before transition, before social or medical transition, the biggest fear I had is that no one would love me in my form, my masculinity, whether I was considered a lesbian or not. I just kind of thought that how I present and what I ask for in a relationship is too much, or it's too difficult for people to understand. And having another trans person, or how Sarah was when we got together, was like a person that knew a lot about trans stuff, was a fierce ally, aka trans.
Yeah,
And
the way too excited ally, the way too invested ally.
not at all. But I think we kind of like, I kind of saw in you that, like, happy trans people. You
Yeah.
taught me that there's such thing as happy trans people. We are happy trans people. We
Yeah.
show other people that there's a possibility to have this joy, this balanced life. I think that it's not all joy, but and the joy that forms around us as a result of seeing us,
Yeah.
and having a different hope than maybe what I would have had at this time in my life. I think that kind of stuff is really beautiful. And
Totally
I think
agree.
when we were kind of surprised when we were talking about this stuff, and I was talking about how without Sarah, I don't think I would have had access to any options. It just didn't seem like a real goal for me. And then Sarah just kind of put this fire under it that was like, we can ask our community, we can work together to figure out a way to get this done, no matter if we have to go to a different country, whatever we have to do. If whatever you want done will get done. And I think when people see that, it brings them like a hope they're gonna find their person that or their team or their people.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that that's been my biggest like joy, but also pride of the whole just telling our story piece, and being visible like this. Yeah.
I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. My last question before our mid-show break. What is some key advice that you would give to anyone in a relationship with a trans person, or relationship advice in general?
Yeah. I think that it's important to just be honest with each other. I think being super communicative
Yeah.
has been one of the pillars of what has made us successful. And it did not come easily. It was something I had to do through therapy and counseling and self-reflection and personal development. And those things were intentional, and they were based on feedback I was getting from my partner. And I've adjusted myself, but I've not lost myself. And I've been honest with Sarah the entire way of where I'm at and where I'd like us to be. And I think that that's been something that I have noticed isn't always present in other relationships in my past, or haven't been always present in other people's relationships that we see that are struggling. And so that would be my advice, is the
Yeah.
honesty.
I totally agree with that. Like communication and honesty. And I think like just, especially in a relationship with a trans person, and really in a relationship with anyone, the patience and compassion, like communication is the goal, and honesty is, the way to do that. And I think you need to do that on, like, have those honest conversations and have all that communication through the lens of patience and compassion for yourself and for your partner. I think that's the best gift that you can give the relationship. Give the relationship patience, give the relationship compassion, and therefore that will transfer over to the both of you, or the lot of you. It might be more than just two of you.
And the other thing I think is relevant is the idea that you know, people ask us often which is harder, being an interracial couple and what or being a T4T couple or a trans couple. And we often say they are remarkably similar, but this idea, if you're coming from the non-trans role in a partnership, I think is to understand the pressure that is on that person in general. Like if you are a person that someone comes to you and says, I'm trans, I don't know how you're gonna feel about it, I don't want to lose you, knowing that is an incredibly like vulnerable place to hold for someone, and it can be a lot. We tell parents when your kid comes out to you, go work with another parent. Don't try to like process that with that person. And I really think I would suggest the same thing if you're dealing with racial tensions because you're in an interracial relationship and you can't develop that cultural humility that you may not never understand, but you know there's something different. I would say give your trans partners that ability to be in that held space for someone that needs a little bit more space than we might expect because of the incredible pressures of life on trans
and
people.
finding that support. So like, you know, if you're a cis person or a non-trans person in a relationship with a trans person and you want to support them, you want to seek out people that already know how to support that community. Like you don't want to go to another person that really has no idea or can't give you really helpful advice and feedback. I think sometimes we see that in the way of even when it comes to like therapy or like church, you know, type situations or things like that. People go, oh, my partner came out as trans. I went to my therapist who's never heard of trans people, and they gave me really harmful advice. So yeah, again, like seek out the help and the counsel of community, that, you know, that community that you want to support.
And then my last tip, which I don't think anybody talks about, is you got to take your sex really seriously. And I say this because we could talk about it on an 18+ thing, but like when it comes down to it, contracting, consent, understanding what's touch and what's not touch, understanding how to have those conversations, understanding how to make a trans person feel safer in your presence and intimacy is an achieved skill. It is a thing that people study, understand, and work with, and it's a lot more intentional than people are assuming. And I think that when people enter into these relationships, they might be assuming that things are going to happen as a result of lots of factors. And so I'm going to say it's really important for you to take that part of your relationship seriously, to listen to each other in that part as much as you would any other aspect of your relationship. Don't assume it's a given. And that I think is like super big, what other partners have really struggled with. And I think they told me that it was because they've never had a trans partner before. So yeah.
I want to respond to what you just shared, Rocky, because I think you make a really important point. Something like the first or second date my wife and I ever had was us negotiating some of those pieces, because I was like, I'm a lesbian, you're a trans woman, I've never experienced a penis, I don't know what to do with that, and I feel really shitty even saying that out loud, and I don't know what to do, but I care about you, so I want to figure it out. And so she was extremely patient with me working through that and said, you know, look, it can be as simple as we have a list of each of our body parts and we talk about, yes, touching that, no touching that. Here's what I call this, right? I might refer to things with a different word than a doctor might think it is called. And like holding that vision of what my partner's body is in my mind according to how they see themselves, not what I'm perceiving or guessing. So like for me, there was like a no touching the chest area before top surgery thing. Like, and she's a lesbian and loves breasts. And I was like, but I don't have breasts. I have things on my chest I don't want anymore. And I don't want them to be a part of our relationship. And so like, she just never touched my breasts. And there came a point after top surgery where I was all healed up and she still wasn't touching my chest. I was like, you're allowed to touch my chest now. And she had like trained herself to not. And so that she had to relearn that like, this is a part of my body that's okay to interact with now. And it is part of me and it's affirming now. And so there's other pieces we had to navigate, but I feel like I can talk about my parts and not hers. So I'm going to let her parts be hers. But that was absolutely a thing we had to navigate. And I think that her response about you know, in any relationship, taking an inventory of what are your parts, what are they called, what do you like to be
Yeah.
touched, and how. Like literally any person in a relationship with another person, doesn't matter if you're queer or straight or
Yeah.
polyamorous or not, like that is a valuable conversation to have at the start of any relationship, and an ongoing conversation to have, because sometimes the names of those pieces can evolve and your relationship to those
Absolutely.
pieces can evolve over time. Like maybe something was on the table and then it's like, oh, actually, like I'm having a lot of atrophy in that part of my body and it's painful, physically
Yeah.
painful to have it interacted with. I need to take it off the table now. And so
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's, yeah, like you, I mean, you already said communication is key. It really is. And that specific thing is worth communicating about really explicitly and directly. Perhaps before people are naked and hot and heavy. Like you
Yeah.
want to talk about that before you're excited.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
sometimes in the like world of sex education, we encourage people to use something like called a want, will, won't list, or a yes, no, maybe list. And it's very similar to what you're talking about like not only kind of inventorying and like getting, you know, clarity on names and descriptions of body parts and things like that, and also you know, acts, intimate acts or ways of, you know, connecting with each other too. And like you were saying, it's like those things evolve and change over time, and like that is the truth for any kind of relationship, you know, any kind of relationship that includes, you know, that intimacy or sexuality. Like uh it changes, so constantly having like revisiting your consent convos and revisiting your interests, you know, and revisiting your comfortabilities and like all those things, super important.
So Rocky and Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel where you document traveling to all sorts of places? Because that is so exciting and I love that for you all.
Yes. Do you want me to go first? You want to?
Yes, I want you
Oh,
to.
well, okay. So the long and short of that, so our YouTube is Rocky and Sarah. And yes, our main focus on that channel is to document our travel journeys and adventures as an interabled, interracial, queer T4T couple. And yeah, I mean, we really just we love YouTube. We watch YouTube like we watch like we don't have cable TV, we watch YouTube instead. We have tons of creators that we just love to follow, and yeah, I mean, off and on for like really the past better part of 2 decades, Rocky and I both had kind of, you know, been on friends' YouTube channels or like dabbled in different things on YouTube here and there. And then ever since we got together, probably a couple of years into our relationship, we started experimenting with our first YouTube channel, Swirl Baby TV, which we do still have. But that's not a super active channel right now. But that channel was really largely focused on a lot of like Rocky's transition journey, and kind of both of us, like some, you know, a lot about like our coming out and just like general kind of LGBTQIA2S plus info, facts, how to get connected with community, things like that. And we started kind of experimenting with the travel stuff on Swirl Baby TV before taking it over to Rocky and Sarah, where we really wanted that to be the main focus. Just, yeah, travel, we think should be for everyone. Adventure is for everyone, nature is for everyone. So yeah, that's, we just really wanted to share that with our YouTube channel, and we hope someday to like just, you know, continue to grow that into like a blossoming and exciting little community.
Yeah, I
love
think
that.
we decided to travel a little bit abroad when right before my transition, because we had to, because our friends were getting married abroad, and I think the stress that that brought about in our relationship just sparked this idea that travel should probably be one of the things that we talk about when we make content. And I think it's no secret that the travel and tourism industry and content creation and travel content creation specifically is sorely missing diversity in a lot of ways, or it's
Yes.
it doesn't really talk about these other intersectional dynamics you have to consider when you're booking a location or trying to find travel buddies. And I think YouTube's community is similar to Twitch's in that I think the people in YouTube really ride for each other, and the
Yeah.
people in Twitch really ride for each other. And I think when we started linking up with other people in the community, especially other trans people in the community that were making content,
And other disabled people.
yeah, especially people
especially.
that travel or go to events, I think we found an incredible bunch of communities to kind of like just fall gracefully into. And we've always traveled, I think, for work and things like that, but this has been the first time I think we just travel and be with each other and be in love, and take whatever kind of maybe content creation gigs we could find, but it wasn't our primary thing. We're filming for fun. We want to show people the how great Sarah is at planning a trip, how we keep our trips fun and engaging. And I think our India series is probably our most popular so far. We just launched it, but people are kind of curious about what happened when Sarah got sick at the Taj Mahal, or like what happened when we had to be separated, and we never separate, and people know that because Sarah wasn't needed a couple of days of recovery, and so I think that it gives us a chance to tell those stories that people probably identify in themselves. But I don't know, we weren't capturing it for so long, and we were just kind of doing like, what is transgender, like sketches.
Yeah, like we said, on Swirl Baby, it was really focused on just like, our first channel. We really focused a lot on just trying to like introduce really our friends like in real life, or our friends in the digital world, to these ideas and like concepts of like the LGBTQIA2S plus community existing at all.
Yeah.
And so Rocky and Sarah, we really just wanted to like, move a little bit out of that kind of education space and more into, like Rocky said, like building community. And we just know that there's a lot of things that a lot of folks in our community kind of struggle with when it comes to getting out and like we said, whether that's like going into nature, planning their first trip, getting into some van life or RV nomadic life,
Affording such things.
Yeah, exactly. Finding budget friendly ways to do it, or finding where, maybe some more experienced travelers would say it's worth a splurge or whatever. We just really like sharing that with people, because that was a big part of our healing too, especially coming out of 2019 and 2020, where we had a lot of really serious things happen. We had a lot of grief, we had a lot of just a lot a lot happening, and I think a lot of people can relate to that too. So we just we wanted things to be a little bit more accessible for folks. And we love our YouTube community so much. We're really grateful for like our little tiny
small but
squad.
mighty.
Our small
Our sweet friends.
sweet friends. Yeah.
Our sweet squad.
Our sweet
takes care of
squad.
it.
And I'll say to the clouder, our listeners and folks in chat, go subscribe to that YouTube channel. It's pinned in the chat. YouTube.com/@ Rocky and Sarah. Sarah has an H at the end. It's such a cute little channel. I just subscribed with like 3 different accounts on accident. I was like, oh wait,
Thank you.
no, this is the wrong one. Oh wait, this is the wrong one again.
Hey, we love it. Subscribe with
which
5
internet
accounts.
tab is the right one? It's this one. Okay. So you see 3 versions of Meowster. It was all me.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, we truly do. Anytime if we get 1 subscriber, we get 1 like, if we get 1 comment, it really means so much to us, because that's what, for us, that's what it's about. Like, it literally was just 1 video or 1 creator, so many times for us, that pushed us into doing something or experiencing something or learning something, that was really special and impactful. So like anytime we have just even 1 interaction, it really means a lot to us.
Yeah.
I have a additional question about the traveling stuff. For me, it's less about the budget in traveling and more about disability in traveling, and like finding food I can actually eat.
Yeah.
And what do I do with my 3 cats? And like, it's really hard to take a wheelchair on an airplane because they will break it and not
They
replace
will
it,
ruin
and
it.
not do anything about it to make it better. And so like, for me, those are my barriers to travel. Is actually, it has more to do with disability than gender or funding.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of that you maybe cover in your content, but I think I have
We
to ask
cover a
you that.
lot of it.
I think I have
We
to
cover a
do that.
lot of it,
Well, we're
but we
covering
don't
some,
post it.
yeah, but we are actually, that's kind of our push for this year because yeah, I also have dynamic disability, and so I'm kind of, the last few years I've been really experimenting with like more mobility aids and things like that, and we've been experimenting with utilizing more mobility related services and disability related services in our travels. So we are starting to kind of touch on that, and specifically wheelchair based things, because I'm just starting to kind of get into that world of using chairs. And we luckily have connected with some super great folks, Live to Roll, and they are not specifically queer, but they are extremely friendly allies towards our community. But they are a fabulous group of disabled content creators. And they, I think pretty much everyone in their squad uses a chair, different kinds of chairs, of course, but they talk a lot about just like moving around the world, doing different things with their chair. And another content creator that I really like that talks specifically about travel and also uses a chair most of the time or full time is Curb Free Cory Lee. Which you might have heard of on Instagram, but I cannot more highly recommend Curb Free Cory Lee. He is winning a bunch of like media awards right now for his travel focused on accessibility. So we would love to kind of like follow in those footsteps and kind of continue some of the messaging and things that they're talking about. We're also plus size people, so like that's part of our journey as well. We love following Jbaeproductions, Jalen Cheney. She's on Instagram, Jbaeproductions. I'll try to like send a link, but her stuff is also really great. And she is actually a creator that last year put forth a petition for the FAA, like the Federal Airlines, yeah, to be more size inclusive and disability inclusive on planes, because there's so much problem for fat and plus size travelers and disabled creators, like we said, like getting their mobility devices broken or whatever. So yeah, lots of people doing really great work, and we would love to, like we said, just continue to do what we can to contribute to that body of work, because it's so important.
And in our capacity as ambassadors for the meetup that's known as Van Life Pride, I think this is the reason why you see a lot of people move into van travel as opposed to other forms of travel. Yeah. A lot of people in our community are on the road right now. Mm-hmm. Hi, everybody. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them have their animals with them. They find places to sleep safely, sometimes for free together. They kind of roam around in little packs, yeah, of queues all around the country.
They have accessible rigs.
And we share, Sarah hosted a disability chat at this year's event, and over 500 people, I think, showed up. And
to the overall
event, but the people that were at that disability chat shared resources that I think are so helpful for first timers, people that are trying to figure that out. There's also pet chats and things like that where people talk about having their animals with them on the road. And so I think, yeah, for us, it was educating ourselves on what barriers are there. What do we need to share, not only with our community about what barriers we're finding, but remind ourselves of when we try to do a Disney or try to do a plane. Yeah. And creating a system for ourselves to be able to get on the road, or to be able to but to say that our story is conventional to other van life, other travel things, I think would be completely false, because I think we take a lot of steps to make sure that we are comfortable because of our specific situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's the thing about, I think, any of us that are living in these underrepresented populations, we're going to be traveling in an unconventional way anyway, and like, yeah, those of us, especially those of us that have also like our fur babies at home and things like that, it's like we're all going to be traveling in unconventional ways, I think, in general. And so I think that, the beauty is that the community is always finding ways to figure it out and work it out and like sort it through the system, because the systems are not there. We know that. We know they're not there. Like, again, I sorry to, keep harping on it, but like with the chair situation, we just like, every time I open Instagram, I'm seeing, or TikTok, I'm seeing stories about people that had their mobility devices ruined. And these are extensions of our body, so like we know the systems aren't there, but the community is so brilliant and so creative, and where there is a will, there is a way, to some degree, like, right, like we can't overcome systemic ableism, but also when we're together we can do amazing shit.
Yeah, it's true. We do a lot of teamwork for this particular thing. I would say the biggest hack was renting the scooters or renting the chairs that we would need, and adding that to our travel budget, and renting or adding fur baby care. And those two things did allow us to get onto the road a little bit faster than we were expecting.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that. Thank you for those extremely helpful tips for all the disabled queers that want to go on vacation.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Like,
one time we put out a TikTok. Listen to this. This is so funny. This will be a question. One time we put out a TikTok and we were like, you know what? Interabled couples that are also interracial and part of these oppressed groups can travel. It's possible. And we showed all these.
oh,
And the comments
great.
were basically like,
No one said they can't. Who said they can't?
And I was like, we're not saying they can't. We're just showing that we're doing it, and that, we're just making a commercial. It's no big deal. Just trying to share this information. It's almost like when we put it out there, people act like we're silly for sharing it. And then it makes a second guess ourselves.
They act offended. It's almost like people are like kind of acting like they're offended on your behalf, but they're offended by you on your behalf. And you're like, listen,
that's not, we don't need that.
We don't need that energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, don't invalidate my feelings of exclusion, but do agree with me that there are ways to get it done. Like, you have to affirm that the exclusion has been experienced before you can cheer me on for pulling it off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And our top tip for disability travel would be to go to the Abilities Expo.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. Find community, whether it's in a digital form or in person or both, or combo. But yeah, like finding community and finding people that are already doing the thing. Like, if you're in a place and you're like, man, I really want to get a rollator, but I've never used one before, and I just feel I'm having some complex feelings and emotions about it. Find people that are already using it, because they will have also gone through a lot of that, most likely, and they will be able to, really help gas you up and be like, get that rollator, get out there in the world, do what you want to do. It's great.
How did you all come up with the fun idea to renew your marriage vows so many times that you break the world record for it?
I think that we were looking for a way to continue to show each other exactly how much we love each other in a really intentional way. And we were searching, and we continue to search for that perfect content idea that will just get everyone excited and want to help us. And so a while back, we kind of got displaced for a while to take care of family. And Sarah was saying, when we get done with this, I want to go have a great remarriage. And I said, yeah, let's do that. Vow renewal, yeah. And we started looking into what that all looks like. And I think we were also saying, maybe we'll try to break world record. We'll go visit the world's largest yarn along our way to get married or something. And then we said, I wonder if there's a world record for getting
most vow renewals. Yeah.
Because that's the funny thing you do when you're on the world record website. And
it's the funny thing you do when you're on ADHD. Like, how do you get my spicy brain, our neurospicy brain.
It makes sense to me.
That's how we got there. Like,
the logic flows.
Yeah.
I think we reached out. It's been going pretty okay. I think people feel weird about the ask to be the person marrying us, but we found if we hire drag queens, they're natural performers and they can kind of wham bam, thank you, get our vow renewal done, in a guerrilla style outside of like the White House if we wanted to do such a thing.
Oh,
But
not there.
well, maybe not there, but I'm saying we've come up with some pretty hilarious ideas of these different. We have to do 120 of them, I think, to really be
Plus,
contending.
120
And we're
plus.
not even a tenth of the way there because we can't find people that will just go with us and do the will you, and then we like run away. So we're still kind of like planning them, but I think it was mostly because we wanted to be able to say we love each other 120 times in a really fun way. And we thought of all these really funny, themes that we could try, and we've had a couple of them go well.
Oh, I mean, I think all the ones that we've done have gone great.
Yeah.
We've only put 1 or 2 of them out. We've got more coming. But yeah, I mean, really, it was, like Rocky said, we were really stuck, and we were going through just a lot of really sad and heavy stuff. And we were also caretaking full time. And I think, for us, it was just like, what would we like when we are done with this season of life? What would we like the next thing to be? And then, COVID kind of changed some of those plans, of course, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, we love, and I think we also thought of it as an excuse to not only celebrate our own love selfishly, but also get other people involved in celebrating their love too.
I like people that are incredibly inclusive.
Yeah, and when we got married about almost 10 years ago, it was also hard for us to find some of the resources that were really affirming. So I think we kind of thought of it too as like a way to show a lot of those affirming providers for people that do want to celebrate their love with some kind of party or gesture.
So I'm gonna sort of smush the last 2 questions I had together,
Okay.
and just say, is there anything that we missed about travel blogging that you would like to make sure that you get a chance to say? If it's a place you're looking forward to visiting or a really sweet moment you experienced on your travels, you want to make sure you said anything along those lines you want to throw in before we do our 3 concluding questions.
I would just say, I think that the biggest thing for us with travel has really been, the people that we have met out in the world, all over. I mean, we have just met the most fascinating and beautiful and kind and creative, adventurous, artistic folks. And, I think it just really, if you're having those feelings, like you're like, I just don't know, man. I don't know about humanity. I feel like there have been so many moments where travel has really like restored our faith in humanity again. And not even in like, oh, something wild happened and someone had to help us out of it. Like those times have definitely happened, and we've been so grateful. But just the fact of meeting people, in one way or another, wherever they're at, and, getting a few moments to like really, meet them where they're at, they meet us where we're at, and we find something in common, or we find something exciting to share in that moment. And maybe it's a relationship that we're able to carry, with us into the future, and we're still friends. And maybe it was a relationship where we didn't even get each other's names in the moment, but it's just really beautiful. I mean, it's, there's a lot of heavy stuff always going on. And it feels like, I think for a lot of us, it feels like that is just amplified more and more day by day. But, I would say that for us, travel has really just shown us how beautiful the diversity in the world is, and how beautiful humans really are to one another. And that's been really, really special.
Yeah, how global our experience is.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
So much overlap.
I think there's a lot that happened for us as a couple when we found a community that is chosen and cares for us as much as we care for them. And for us, that has shown up on the road in communities like the Van Life Pride team.
Yeah.
I think when we meet for free, or if we meet, we're going to meet this summer for a camp, the first ever camping for our community. And I think those moments when you're in those kind of distilled joyful moments with community are truly healing.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that the reason why we do this is not to make money, not to get advertising deals, that it comes with the territory of being a content creator, but it's not the only reason people are on these apps. And I've seen this sentiment that people are like against people making a living as small businesses doing content or things like that. And I gotta say, not every travel vlogger and blogger is out here just trying to hawk you something, sell you something. We really do think that we have a story to tell that's useful, and we have resources and info that's useful if our life is something that you want to try. And so we're going to continue to be present and hope and ask people to help us get to our goals on our socials and stuff. But we are present because we think it's value out there, and there's beautiful community building happening, and we don't want anyone to miss out on it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want anyone to miss out. We don't want anyone to feel like there isn't a place for them. There's always a place for you. There's always, a heart to welcome you in and welcome you home.
There's a lot of cute little emojis in chat.
The
sweet things you're sharing.
Y'all are so
really
sweet.
Like, seriously.
Little calico holding a heart. So cute.
Meowster, you have so many sweet friends in here. This is just such a sweet group.
I just am trans and disabled on the internet.
That's
consistently, and then my friends appear, and it's amazing. I don't know how I got this lucky, but
yes,
I really love the Clouder. Shout out to the Clouder. It's a beautiful
we love you, Clouder. Thank you so much, Clouder.
Quadruple Leo powers. I'm a quadruple Leo. Yes, I love how Juliet remembered that factoid about me.
You're a triple Leo?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Leo, yeah.
What? Yes, we love Leos.
They're fun.
Yeah, Leos are good.
It's balanced out by a lot of Virgo.
Oh,
so I could throw a party, but I can also plan it. That's
and clean it up probably.
We're a Pisces and Sagittarius. We get almost nothing
done. Yeah.
My best friend is a Pisces, and I love my Pisces.
Yes, Pisces season, baby.
Is there anything about T4T relationships that you want to make sure you say? I know that was right before our break. That was more our topic, but I wanted to give a final chance for that subject as well. If there's anything we
love
missed.
is possible.
And love is magical, and just believe in your love.
Yeah, you don't have to take it as serious as you think you do. It isn't as serious as you think it is. In fact, it feels a lot less like fear when you find your person, and a lot more like coming home. And when you're trying to find that, and whether it's in a T4T relationship or another, I think you're going to find that T4T relationships kind of form those a little quicker because of the work that we've done to get to each other. And I think it's special and beautiful and should be a part of people's considerations when they're thinking of their mates. And I don't think that there's been anything better that's happened to me than having Sarah be in my life. And so I really hope and wish for people out there that want this, that you do find it, and that you talk to people like us to learn the ways that it should feel good to be loved. And I really encourage our families to build up strong.
Yeah. Aw. My face hurts from smiling. That's so sweet.
Okay. Can each of you share an experience with gender euphoria? A time when you felt you're really feeling your gender.
Oh, really feeling my gender. You go.
My moments on the internet under one of our first channels, and you can also follow me on TikTok, where I share my top surgery.
Oh yeah.
It took me a long time to get there, and a long time knowing I wanted to get there. And without my community, I would not have gotten there. And I spent all my life trying to make sure that other people get where they want to be in their journey because of how happy I am. I never expected it to be as good as it is. It was hard, it was difficult, but it is my moment. Seeing that for the first time and being in the body I'm in right now. Yeah.
Aw. Yeah, that was a really special moment. It's like making me emotional just thinking back to it because it was so beautiful. That whole season of time when you had your top surgery was a really beautiful season. I think for me, gender euphoria It's really been in the little ways. It's when somebody remembers that, especially someone that maybe I didn't expect, but they remember to call me they, them. I did have a really special moment. I'm definitely getting a little emotional. I did have a really special moment with our friends and teammates, the Van Life Pride crew, and kind of our, I don't know what her title is, but our I call her our mother, but our like kind of
executive director.
thank you. I was like, I know the real name,
Boss and CEO.
yes, our boss mother. But yeah, our CEO, our executive director of our group, that was, she got together and she got us all these little keychains and like wrote us a little love note. And well, now I can't remember if she actually gave me a disability one.
It was a disability.
Okay, although I thought it might have been non-binary one. But anyway, but it was just like the note was very affirming. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. She's just been someone that's been very affirming on my journey in a really like outward and boisterous way. Shout out to you, Kristen. Love you so much. But yeah, she has just really made me feel very seen. And yeah, like I said, for me, it's just really those little moments of people just remembering I'm a they them and meeting another they them, and we're like, that's fun. That's gender euphoria for sure.
So beautiful. So my last question for the two of you is, what would you like to make sure folks know about your perspective on gender and non-binary, trans, or gender diverse issues? Like, if you only got to say one thing, one thing from the soapbox, what's your 30-second takeaway you want trans people to hear, gender diverse people to hear, or our allies to hear about what it's like to be people like us?
I think, for me, I just really want my gender diverse, trans, non-binary siblings, friends, and allies to know that you're already perfect. You're already great. You're already amazing. And you stepping into your fullness and you stepping into the light fully as who you are is the most beautiful gift that you can give to this world, is the most special thing you can do. And visibility still absolutely matters. You being seen and visible and known for who you are is just such an important and special gift.
Yeah, and I would just like to say to trans folks out there that you've kicked a very powerful hornet's nest by attacking the community that has built almost everything that we have built our liberation on. And we are a larger community than you think, with a larger section of allies that you probably were anticipating. And when we get our liberation, it will be known that a lot of people have used misinformation to discredit a lot of beautiful souls and beautiful people in our community. And those flowers will be returned. And anyone that rises up to support the thriving communities that we are building right now, we appreciate you. And we want you to know that that fight is working. Yes. And as much as you see the negativity that's out there, there is equal, if not more, positive pushes in the right direction. Yeah. And if you join now, it is a good time, because you have never been alone, but it's never been more clear than today. And I'm very proud of this community. And I want people to know that we will always be here. And I think that I'm lucky that I learned the truth about our community and our history. And I want everyone to have that same ability. And I will continue to fight for it. And we will continue to fight for that, no matter where we are for the rest of our lives. And thank you all for being for us and taking care of us and our little dream. Yeah. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, friends, Rocky and Sarah are an LGBTQA+ power couple on a mission to make travel and adventuring more accessible to their community and to encourage folks to reach for the stars and follow their biggest dreams. You can check out their website, which is beacons.ai, Rocky and Sarah, for more information and links to many things. Their socials are on both Instagram and YouTube. On Instagram, it's The Rocky and Sarah, and YouTube is @Rocky and Sarah. Sarah spelled with an H at the end. And folks, here now is this week's Clouder query that you, our audience, can answer on our social media platforms.
Our Clouder query is,
how do you infuse joy into your life?
Let us know on our socials, everyone, how you infuse joy into your life. Coming soon next week, we have our guest Finn Leary, who uses he and they pronouns, and we are discussing trans representation in young adult fiction. For community updates, I wanted to thank everyone for participating in Ezra Mutual Aid. We raised somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,200 for Ezra over our 75-hour mutual aid live stream raid train on Twitch. If folks are interested in getting involved in Gender Federation's future activities, feel free to join us on Gender Federation. Our link tree has all kinds of links on it. We've got socials, we've got a Discord server, we've got weekly meetings. Reach out to me, GenderMeowster, if you are interested in being involved in that in a more recurring, regular way. Otherwise, sign up for our email list to get announcements about when we are opening applications for streamers and mods and helpers. That's just like acutely for one event instead of ongoing support. And yes, the other thing I wanted to mention is our Genderful schedule going forward. This month isn't quite, it won't be true for May, but starting perhaps in June and going forward, we're going to be live every other Monday. And part of that is because I have a second podcast project that I'm working on the other Mondays. So I had to make a little bit of room. It's also to give a little more spaciousness to the editors and the guest wranglers to have a little extra time to prepare and give everyone some spaciousness. So we're going to be focusing on the quality of our content instead of the volume of content that we're making. But we still have literally hundreds of ideas of guests we could have on the show, so I don't see us stopping anytime soon. We have a large bevy of opportunities to pursue and bring you all lovely people to enjoy. For now, Genderful would like to thank all of our supporters on Patreon. You can also be on this list in future episodes if you subscribe to our Patreon. Miranda Catita, Holly Blash, Winter Vespers, Loch Ness Gamer, Justin Baker Rojas, Yaicio, Ray of Swords, Mirami, The Hessian, and Trans Capybara. Remember that trans rights are human rights? That's right. Please enjoy our outro. Genderful would like to thank our guest for being on this podcast. If you'd like to catch us live, join us on Mondays on twitch.tv/GenderMeowster. Show notes will appear in the edited versions of the show on Fridays on both YouTube and podcasting platforms.
If you have a question you'd like the host to answer or are gender diverse and would like to request an interview, please send an email to genderfulpodcast@gmail.com or sign up via the website at genderfulpodcast.com.
As a gender diverse community, the Clouder wants to assure our listeners that we're prepared to moderate our spaces. We will get positive and negative feedback on these shows and topics, and we have a moderation team on our channels, socials, and Discord server ready to deal with this.
Please join our Discord server at discord.gg/meowster to meet the community and get a regular digest of solidarity resources. You can also support us with subscriptions on Patreon, following and reviewing us on your favorite podcasting platform, or engaging with our posts and content on social media at GenderfulPod and at GenderMeowster.
You can take a few minutes to rate the show. We will post any 5-star reviews on our socials, so get creative. Mention a special interest of your own, a project you're working on, or even say hi to your comfort person in your review. What power!
This show is made possible by volunteers, tips, and subscriptions. Shout out to the folks helping us coordinate guests, edit the podcast, moderate the live chat, and post on our socials.
Here's our artist credit. Genderful is hosted by Miranda Catita and GenderMeowster. Genderful's pre-show is wrangled by JuiceTex. Genderful's live stream is produced by Mirami. Genderful is edited and mixed by Transgriffin and FreeRangeMegs. Genderful's promos and thumbnail graphic are designed by Transgriffin. Genderful's social media is managed by Kainsey. Genderful's theme song is called Hope by FreeRangeMegs, also known as Soma. The current GenderMeowster logo was designed by Siptopia. Genderful is the intellectual property of GenderMeowster. All rights reserved.
Trans rights are human rights. That's right.